All right, let's have a conversation about probably the hot topic, the protest slash riots, um, mostly centered in LA. There have been other cities that have had protests, but nothing that has gone into burning cars and tearing up cement blocks from streets and throwing them at law enforcement officers and whatnot and blocking streets. Um, As I've said before, I'm more moderate on things. I don't sway left. I don't say right. I sway right. I think I'd say like the majority of Americans, they're down the middle with stuff, and then they vote either way depending on the situation. Um, I think 80% of this country really could give a damn about what's going on with ICE, what's going on with the immigration stuff, what's going on with the protests and everything. And then you have the 20%, which I would divide that further up into 10% each, where you have the 10% radical left and the 10% radical right that are really going at it, that really get involved with this stuff. And you have something that is basically a non story that becomes political theater. And if you haven't noticed, especially in the last really 10 years, maybe 15, politicians have really figured out how to use social media and media um, to benefit themselves. It's not to benefit their constituents. It's not to benefit the actual country. It's to keep them in the limelight so that they continue getting voted in and hold power. And let's be honest, that's all a politician wants to do. And until you actually put term limits on the Senate and Congress, it'll always be that way. You'll have people that will sit in there for 20, 30, 40 years basically doing nothing, collecting paychecks. And when it comes time to build up their base, or when it comes time to build up votes for themselves, they'll play this political theater. But with the onset of social media and being able to spin the narrative in your direction, and it's both sides. I'm not saying it's just Democrats. I'm not saying it's just Republicans. Both sides do it masterfully well. And if you are a stupid idiot that sits there and um, rot your brain on this crap every day, you fall for that system. You fall for that nonsense. Um, and unfortunately, it's been happening a lot lately with these protests. This weekend, you have the No Kings protest going on, which I saw a reporter asked Trump about that, the No Kings, and he had a I mean, look, that guy's been in the media for 40, 50 years or whatever it is, in New York, and so on. So he knows how to answer, questions. He's very, very sly, very slick on that stuff. When somebody asked him about the No Kings protest, he basically, like said, "Me a king? I can't even, pass, things through Congress or the Senate without them voting on it. It's saying it just takes him forever to do that sort of stuff. It was kind of a funny joke, made me chuckle a little bit, but I mean he's got a point. Um, but we got these protests slash riots going on, and for people that are from other countries, um, I will say this: you'll see a lot of image, and I don't know how many people from other countries watch my stream. I mean, but I don't get a lot of views. It's whatever. Um, this isn't a broadly national thing. Now they'll make it seem like it's broadly national. Oh, because it's in New York, it's in Chicago, it's in Atlanta, it's in L.A., it's in Dallas, it's in this and that. Large cities, and that's great. You have the right to protest. You have the right to do what these people are doing. Walk and shout and do your thing. That's fine. But if you really look, if you sum it down to like the LA stuff, if you sum it down to what's going on, those protests slash riots are only happening on a small portion of that city. LA, and let's pull LA up. Let's pull up a picture of LA. Los Angeles. Los Angeles, let's do a map. Okay. So this one won't let me zoom in. Let's try to zoom in if we can. So let's say the protest and these riots are happening on, let's give them this 3 block layout right here. I can't highlight that, but this is where it's happening right here. Now I want you to look at Los Angeles and then the surrounding cities that are with it. And some people consider this the larger metropolis of Los Angeles. I mean, you have people. It's so funny. Like you have different celebrities and different individuals coming out, and they're trying to play down the riots. They're trying to say, yeah, it's not dangerous. Of course, it's not, because most of these celebrities don't actually live in downtown Los Angeles. They live out here along Santa Monica. They live out here in Malibu. They live out in the hills. They live wherever, away from all this stuff that's happening. So yeah, they're not going to see any of that stuff. But it's basically proven my point that you have a small section of where it's happening, and then you have the largest city. Now, if you're old enough to remember the 1992 riots, then you would understand what a riot is. Then you would understand how devastating that stuff could be. There are pictures, and I would suggest you look them out, from like helicopters taking pictures of the cities, and all you see is fires just everywhere, burned down buildings, stuff on fire, this, that, just inundated. The nine, the 92, I thought I heard something there. Sorry. The 92 riots were something to behold. I mean, I was only 11 years old, so I didn't really understand what was going on at that time. But the Republicans are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to make it seem like the whole world is burning down. That's how they're going to play it. When in reality, it's maybe 10% of that. But the only problem is you then have the other side, the Democrats, who then overreact to the Republicans' overreaction. And it makes them look even dumber, because the Republicans come and they play on, well, we're here protecting people, we're here protecting the country, and it makes it makes the Democrats look like idiots, because they look like they're not representing the country, they're not representing their people, and they're in danger. Now, look, I will say this. You The Republicans got to be smarter. I mean, excuse me, not the Republicans. The Democrats got to be smarter. You can't overreact in these situations. You can't also underreact. You have, again, now here's cars that were on fire and this and that. And there's been two sides of this story. One, you had Newsom saying that Trump never called him about this stuff, but now you have Trump, putting, screenshots out there that he actually called him. Take that for what it is. So you're going to have that back and forth. You just had fires out there burn down a good portion of the county of Los Angeles. They're still, trying to build back from that. I mean, that's going to take a few years. Um, so you have to have your city on edge, especially when stuff like this starts. When you have people burning cars, when you have people lighting fires, and you have, I mean, this guy's trying to set a fire right here, and you have people throwing bricks, you have people doing this and that, and to not see the danger in that and to say, oh, well, it's just peaceful protesting, it makes you look stupid. We live in a world these days where people get the instant news. People with their phones record everything and anything that's going on, sometimes too much that's going on. So you can be caught in a lie right away. I think if Newsom would have sent the authorities out there quicker, none of this would have happened. It would have been handled, it would have been squashed, it's whatever. But the Democrats have to play this side to where they feel they have to placate to this type of element, because if they don't, then they're seen with being in bed with Donald Trump, and they've made that bed to where Donald Trump's a Nazi, Donald Trump's a king. Donald Trump wants to be a president forever. So if you work with him, you're then seen as a traitor and a turncoat. So they can't. And what happens? You end up with situations like this. Trump's international guards in, which, hey, you can take that for what it is. But at the same time, again, if you lived through those 92 riots, you don't want to see that happen again. And that's probably what he was thinking. He didn't want that to happen in Los Angeles. He saw that the governor and that the mayor of the city was doing nothing, so he acted. Whether that's right or wrong, hey, that's for you as an individual to judge. That's not on me, but let's be honest. The National Guard and the Marines are just protecting federal buildings. They're not out there knocking heads in the street. They're just sitting at buildings. So the Democrats pushing that, oh, they came in to run the streets and knock people over, that's a bunch of horse crap. They're just there to protect the buildings. And if some idiot decides to test that, then they might find out. And that's on another level. Um, so yeah, we have you have a lot going on. This over politicizing of things and under politicizing of things is ridiculous, especially in the world today. Um, I would advise, and it's not going to happen. I would advise, the majority of politicians and the majority of people just to stay away from social media. It is a drain and a drag on society. I've said that numerous times on here. It is a waste. But if you live in this world, I feel sorry for your anxiety and I feel sorry for the way that you live. You really live in a bubble, and the bubble's not at a spot where to live. Um, and to further talk about how this is political theater, we're going to get into Padilla. This is a senator of California. He walked into a press conference that um, Secretary, Kristi Noem was given, and he got loud and belligerent, and they worked him out.
Hands up, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your hands up.
Look, man, this is all political theater. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. This is political theater. What he did here was theater. He knew going in what he was going to do. He knew the reaction he was going to get, and he's trying to placate to the protesters that he's still with them. This guy does not give a damn about the protesters. Let me tell you this right now. Any of you protesters, any of you rioters, anybody on any side of the political spectrum, if your politician is not in the streets, if they're not taking rubber bullets with you, if they're not taking pepper spray in the face, if they're not getting billy clubbed, if they're not getting arrested the same way that you are, they don't care. You are an object to them. You are the political theater that they need to keep them in office. And all this is political theater. This man could have walked in
I have questions for the
and just waited till she was done and then shouted his questions. Could have said, "I would like to ask you a few questions," and of course she would have said, "We're not taking questions." And he could have done it then, but he came in and he just started yelling. I mean, how do you think you're going to be handled in that situation? Anybody would have been handled in that situation. I've seen it like that handled in situations on every level of the political scale, local, national, whatever. I mean, this is not a way to act. This is political theater.
Because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your hands off.
How many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing their duty?
This is political theater. and you can try to defend him. You can try to say that that he had the right to do that. Yeah, he had the right to ask questions, but this is theater, man. This is complete nonsense, and this is the type of stuff that Americans are voting for. Is people just to go in there because they know it's going to be a clip. They know that they're then going to get put on television. They know that they're then going to placate and further push this moronic theater that we all buy into, that we all get brainwashed into believing. This is a non-story, but it'll be made into a grandiose story as if his rights are being violated, as if the Trump organization owns the police, and it's just nonsense. I guarantee you, in a month, nobody will remember this happened. In 2 weeks, nobody will remember that this happened. This is just theater, political theater for what's going on right now. It is a joke. Speaking of being a protester, I don't know if anybody saw this video, but I kind of chuckled at this one. This is the ultimate fuck around and find out. Hey man, that was a nice tackle. I ain't gonna lie. That dude came in and just that. I don't know about the head needs to be up more. We'll say that. I mean, the head's down. If he's taking, I mean, he could take a wrong hit in the neck and paralyze himself. So the head, you got to keep the head up. You got to keep the head up. It's like my high school coach used to say: if your head's down, you're getting life flighted. You got to keep your head up. You got to keep your head up. So yeah, keep the head up. But otherwise, hey, look at that. Launches, it explodes. Arms wrapped around the legs, shoulder and stomach. Decleated. Decleated.
Whoa! Stop!
She's gonna yell, "Whoa, stop!" after my man threw a can of Monster or whatever at a police officer. The minute her boy gets lit up, then it's "Whoa, stop." That's not how this game's played, lady. Ooh.
You just hit me! I just got hit with a
Well, you're out there in the damn streets. What do you think's gonna happen?
Yeah, I'm okay. I have Kevlar tights on under my pants. Oh, I'm okay.
If you want to know, they let dude go. They let the tackling machine. What was the office linebacker? They let the office linebacker let him go. So if you believe in that, he got let go. I saw this this thing going on. We'll just leave it here. Like this trend on TikTok right now. All these white women in Los Angeles or in whatever cities complaining about content creators or individuals. Just if you're part of the party, you should be out there in the streets, or you should be promoting your channels to help what's going on. But at the same time, you're sitting your ass in the house. You're not out there in the streets. You're telling people that they're idiots or that they need to stand up for these people or they need to use their content that's seen or they need to. And I love this one woman. She said, "You need to reshare what I'm saying if you actually believe in it." So you're calling out content creators saying that they need to do more about this, but then saying, "Please share my page." Let's be real here. You don't give a damn. There's a lot of these people out there, these TikTok people, they don't give a damn about this. They're narcissists. They want to be viewed, they want to be retweeted, they want to be talked about. Unless they're out there in the streets getting hit by rubber bullets, getting hit by pepper spray, tell them to fuck the ever living shit off because they are a bunch of narcissists, asshole bitches. None of those women, and most of them, the ones that I saw, were attractive white left-leaning bitches were complaining about this are sitting in their house doing nothing. Tell them to shut the fuck up. Either get out there and take a rubber bullet to the face or shut the fuck up because you're more of the problem than you are helping anything. Now, I live in the state of Florida, and Florida doesn't put up with the same kind of shit that...
and we also have a policy...
sorry. I know, man, DeSantis' voice at times can really, if you're just not used to it, can really blow your ears out. Florida didn't put up with that shit. They passed laws back in 2020 that you are allowed to protest. You can protest, but you cannot be in the streets. You cannot be blocking intersections. You cannot do things that would lead to a riot. You do that sort of stuff. Sorry, there's a damn fly flying through. You will get arrested. You will get lit up. And I remember when I was first being passed, they all complained and whined that, oh, you don't have freedom of speech. You can't protest. You're not allowed to do this. Florida's a prison state. No. you can still protest. We've had protests ever since that. I'm here in the Capitol. You should see the different protests that they have every now and then on the Capitol, in front of the Capitol. You can go out there and protest. You can go do your thing. The minute you walk into the streets, if you haven't asked for the streets for that to protest, again, you can petition for a protest through the streets of Florida, and you can get it. But you have to petition to get the right to do it. But the minute you start walking into the streets is where they'll shut your ass down. And in this case, again, you're going to see DeSantis said that if you happen to be driving and there's people that are in the streets and they are getting violent with you, they're blocking you, or they might be hitting your car, you have the right to run them over. Or you have the right to push them out the way. And it's not going to be your fault. It's going to be the protester or the rioter's fault. Now, a lot of people took this as he gave the green light to kill people. That's not what he's given the green light for. He's given the green light for individuals that are stuck in traffic because these morons won't move out of the way and they need to get to work. They need to get to their kids. They need to get to a parent. They need to do whatever it is, and these morons are in the way. Or to the violent ones that come and beat on your cars and slap on your cars. I mean, are you supposed to just take there and sit it? I mean, sit it and take it? What if you have kids in the car and these idiots come up and start slapping on your vehicle? You're going to traumatize these kids. So Florida's not the state to be standing in the streets, and let's just say that much.
And we also have a policy that if you're driving on one of those streets and a mob comes and surrounds your vehicle and threatens you, you have a right to flee for your safety. And so if you drive off and you hit one of these people, that's their fault for impinging on you. You don't have to sit there and just be a sitting duck and let the mob grab you out of your car and drag you through the streets. You have a right to defend yourself in Florida. And we also have
So yeah, do not fuck around in Florida. They will not put up with that crap, and a majority of the deputies here, both Republican and Democrats, will not put up with that nonsense. They will run your ass over. Um, Again, you have the right to protest in Florida. They will let you protest in Florida if you're standing off on the side of the road. If you're standing, in a public area to protest, you have the right to do that. The minute you start impeding other people's personal rights is when you're going to get lit up, and that's how it should be. You shouldn't be in the streets being able to grab bricks, being able to impede people from just living their lives. This is the thing that gets me about these protesters, is you again. These protesters are a small portion of this country, and I'm speaking to this not just to people in America, but people outside the United States. It's a small portion of the country. Um, if you're trying to get the larger portion, or even the other side, to listen to you, to understand what you're doing, preventing them from getting to their job, preventing them from getting to their family, preventing them from just living their life, is not going to sway them to want to be on your side. And it's funny to me in the last 10 years that um, protesters in this country have not figured that out. They see it as, well, as long as we keep infringing on other people's rights, that they will give in and want to do what we want to do and give us our way. And you're not going to get that. You've had so many of these incidences where people have just gunned their car and ran people over or run into people with their cars because they're tired of it. They're annoyed by it. They are at their wits' end about this nonsense. Do you like what these people in California here are doing? They're standing on the side of the street. They're protesting. Perfectly fine. Cars can go through. People can live their life. You're doing so much better for you. The reason I think protesters do that, get in the streets and impede on people, is because they know no one gives a damn about this. They know people just want to go on with their lives. The other 80% of the country just wants to go on with their lives. They want to get up in the morning, go to work, come home, eat, go to bed. They don't want anything impeding that. Hell, people in this country get upset when you change the lights in traffic. If you change the pattern of lights and it slows them down by 5 minutes, they get annoyed by that. Um, that's why protesters stand in the way, because they know that people don't actually give a damn about this. But again, they're going to play that political theater, and your politicians are going to play it to stay in power. Now, I'm going to lastly run on something George Carlin did. This was back in 1992. We're going back 30 something years ago. He gave a great, I won't say speech, but it was part of his comedic stand up as far as what politicians are doing. And this is what I wholeheartedly believe. And if you don't, then you're being played by both sides, and you're part more of a bubble problem than anything else.
Now, to balance the scale, I'd like to talk about some things that bring us together. Things that point out our similarities instead of our differences. Because that's all you ever hear about in this country is our differences. That's all the media and the politicians are ever talking about, the things that separate us, things that make us different from one another. That's the way the ruling class operates in any society. They try to divide the rest of the people. They keep the lower and the middle classes fighting with each other so that they, the rich, can run off with all the fucking money. Fairly simple thing, happens to work. You know, anything different, that's what they're going to talk about. Race, religion, ethnic and national background, jobs, income, education, social status, sexuality, anything they can do, keep us fighting with each other so that they can keep going to the bank. You know how I describe the economic and social classes in this country? The upper class keeps all of the money, pays none of the taxes. The middle class pays all of the taxes, does all of the work. The poor are there just to scare the shit out of the middle class. Keep them showing up at those jobs.
So, yeah, that is my mentality on this thing. And this was from 30 years ago. And look how prevalent it is these days. That the talking about what separates us. Politicians are a masterclass at that. They don't care generally about their constituents. They don't care genuinely about making sure they're doing everything that they can do. They care about getting power, staying in power, and making sure they continue to get paid. And if you want to be used, if you want to be an idiot by either side, then please continue to play that game. I remove myself from it. I have a stress-free life where I don't worry about any of this nonsense, really. To me, it is just political theater, and to get caught up in it is probably one of the most bogus things that you can waste your time on.
Things that separate us, things that make us different from one another. That's the way the ruling class operates in any society. They try to divide the rest of the people. They keep the lower and the middle classes fighting with each other so that they, the rich, can run off with all the fucking money. Fairly simple thing, happens to work. You know, anything different, that's what they're going to talk about. Race, religion, ethnic and national background, jobs, income, education, social status, sexuality, anything they can do, keep us fighting with each other so that they can keep going to the bank.
So again, remember in the future, depending on, I know you got Twitch streamers, you have YouTube content creators, politicians, even celebrities, and so on. So these people that are running these protests, they don't necessarily believe everything that they're talking about. They believe enough to make you believe even more so that they can then keep power. They believe enough so that you can then believe more, that they make you upset about things to where it hardens you to pick a side, one or the other. If you want real change in a country, you have to think for yourself. You can't allow to be brainwashed in that self in that way, and not just mentally think for yourself. You have to be emotionally smart, and that's the problem. And that's what most politicians, that's what most content creators, that's what most celebrities they depend on, is the emotional element. They know that if they can get you hook, line, and sinker emotionally, they can control everything else about you. So when it comes to this stuff, if you ever feel like you're getting like really heated or really just annoyed, change the channel. Stop going to that particular page. Stop watching that particular streamer. Stop looking at that particular content, because it will warp your mind. It will warp your brain. And the only thing in life that you should be worried about is living a peaceful and somewhat relaxed life. Live somewhat in your own circumstances where you can control what's going on around you and not worry about controlling what you can't. On that, hey, like I always say, find out good earth and dig it, get outside more, and turn the internet the fuck off. Later.